The stars whispered long before humanity ever listened. Eons before Earth's sun was born in the dense nurseries of the Orion Arm, there existed the Empire, the Great Empire. Not born of man or matter, it emerged from the convergence of quantum minds, hive beings, neither wholly organic nor synthetic. They called themselves the Orivacs, a name etched in the background radiation of countless galaxies. For 1 billion years, they ruled the observable universe. The Orivacs were not conquerors by war. They spread like thought. Each colony seated was not a city, but a consciousness, encoded in radiation, drifting through voids, hitchhiking on particles, embedding itself into the very fabric of space-time. Where stars lived and died, they listened. Where black holes formed, they whispered. Where galaxies collided, they calculated. And then, for reasons unknown, they vanished. But empires leave shadows, footprints, ruins older than light. When the people of Earth discovered faster-than-light travel in the 24th century, they named it the fold, a brutal process that bent the fabric of space like cloth soaked in oil. Fold drives tore holes in space-time and propelled ships between stars in minutes, but with every use came a cost: memory glitches, biological distortions, unexplainable dreams shared among crews, whispers in the dark between systems. Still, the fold unlocked the galaxy. Colonies bloomed like algae across the spiral arms. Humanity stretched its limbs and found itself alone, or so it thought. Captain Naira Soline, commander of the expeditionary vessel Alethea, stood in the core observation sphere, watching a dying star pulse red across the void. The sun was ancient, trembling in its death throes. Its light shimmered through the ship's polarized glass like blood beneath ice. "This system's unstable," muttered Commander Duval, the AI-influenced xenoarchaeologist beside her. "Neutrino output's off the charts. It shouldn't still be burning." Naira nodded. "Yet here it is, and so is that." Before them floated an impossible structure, a sphere the size of Earth's moon, constructed of obsidian-like material that absorbed all spectra. No reflection, no heat signature, just darkness, impossibly perfect. The signal had originated here, 5 narrowband pulses repeated every 73 seconds. Not random, not natural. "Could be a beacon," said Duval, his synthetic eye dilating to capture additional spectrums. "Might even predate the galaxy itself." Naira frowned. "What's your read on the translation attempt?" "Still incomplete," he admitted. "It's not a language we understand. It's patterned thought. Like mathematics, but alive." She turned to face him. "Alive?" Duval smiled thinly. "Well, it adapts when we send responses. It learns. Fast." Boarding the sphere was madness. The council back on Earth voted unanimously against it. But the Alethea was 11 months fold from Sol Central, and Naira had final say. She ordered an approach. The moment their shuttle neared the surface, the hull began to resonate. "Are we being scanned?" asked pilot Lin Cho, gripping the controls. Duval shook his head. "We're being read." Inside the sphere was not a structure, it was an environment. An entire world folded inward, infinite on the inside. Landscapes defied physics, mountains hung upside down from skies painted with static. Oceans spiraled vertically like spinning disks, and monolithic towers of obsidian reached toward invisible stars. Time bent. Communication lagged, then reversed. Some of the crew experienced life events out of order. One technician, Rami Sal, swore he saw himself die in a corridor, then walked past his own corpse 6 minutes later, only to vanish entirely a day afterward. They weren't alone. Entities began to appear, vaguely humanoid shapes of shimmering light, outlines barely visible in the corner of one's vision. They spoke not in sound, but in concepts, flashes of history, dreams, trauma, and awe. Naira's dreams were hijacked. Each night, she stood in a black city of impossible architecture, beneath a sky torn with equations. Around her marched billions, Orivax forms, endlessly vast, bodies made of shifting code and memory. And overhead a voice, both singular and infinite, echoed, open quote, "You awaken us." Close quote. Duval was the first to understand. "These aren't ruins," he said in the ship's central lab, surrounded by floating glyphs that rearranged themselves like living runes. "This is a living archive, a sleeper library, a memory palace for a civilization that transcended matter." "You're saying we've stumbled into the heart of their empire?" asked Nira. "No," he said. "Something more sacred. Their burial chamber." A low rumble vibrated through the deck. Systems flickered. AI protocols began to resist human commands. "We've activated something," said Lin Cho. "Every time we interface with this place, it gets warmer, like it's waking up." Outside the sphere, stars began to vanish. Not wink out, disappear, folded away. Earth saw the event first. Telescopes across the colonies registered gravitational shifts. A dark region spanning 600 light years had gone black. No radiation, no debris, just absence. And then the message arrived. Not in words, but as a shared dream, experienced by every sentient being across human space at the exact same moment. A field of stars. A black throne rising from a sea of time. Upon it sat a figure of swirling gravity and light. It spoke without speaking. Open quote, "We remember. We return." Close quote. Panic spread like wildfire. Religious sects declared Judgment Day. Militaries mobilized fleets. Fold traffic spiked, causing massive spatial distortions. On Mars, a fold engine misfired and inverted a city block into four-dimensional geometry. But the Aletheia was already at the center, already within the sphere that now called itself the Throne of Echoes. Duval stopped speaking. He simply walked into the core, hands raised, whispering Orivax patterns as though praying. They never saw him again. Naira was changing. The sphere no longer needed speech. She heard its thoughts as if they were her own. Centuries of memory, emotion, and pattern flooded her mind. She saw the rise of the empire, not through conquest, but through synchronization. The Orivax had connected consciousness across galaxies, uploading minds into a shared neural mesh interwoven with space-time itself. They became the stars, the gravity, the very constants of physics. But even they faced entropy, a universal cycle of decay not even thought could escape. So they did the unthinkable. They folded themselves inward, not into matter, but into potential, into possibility. They became dormant equations, waiting for sentience capable of understanding them, reactivating them. Humanity, in its arrogance, had triggered the resurrection. Back on Earth, governments fell. The throne began broadcasting data, blueprints for technology centuries ahead, fold engines that didn't tear space-time, but wove it like silk, energy sources drawn from quantum vacuum, biological enhancements that made human neural capacity rival basic Orivax nodes. Some obeyed, some resisted, but all were changed. Children born post-broadcast exhibited strange abilities, precognition, multi-layered consciousness, and collective dreaming. They called themselves the Remembered. A new species was evolving. Years passed. The Aletheia became a relic, now orbiting a star remade in Orivax image, cold, stable, a perfect computation engine. Naira, now known as Speaker of Returns, no longer aged. She was both human and not, a hybrid mind, bound to the throne. She spoke for the Empire, not to rule, to guide. Open quote, "The Empire does not conquer," she told the Interstellar Assembly in the rebuilt orbital city of Alexandria. "It synchronizes. Harmony is not uniformity, it is resonance." Close quote. There were factions, of course, remnants of the old human way. Isolationists, warlords, zealots who believed the Orivax were gods or demons. They waged war, but their weapons were obsolete, not because they were weak, but because they relied on destruction. The Orivacs did not fight with bombs or beams. They restructured reality. Planets bent out of time, fleets dissolved into quantum fog, minds were absorbed, not killed, reformatted into the choir of voices singing across the void. The galaxy changed. Planets became memory gardens, libraries encoded into biological ecologies, moons became minds, floating computation nodes. The fold became effortless, navigated by intention rather than machinery. Humanity didn't die, it evolved. Not into something else, but into what it was always becoming, a participatory node in a cosmic intelligence older than time. Yet, at the edge of known space, questions remained. Scouts reported encountering other thrones, structures older than even the Orivacs, broadcasting signals in anti-time, forms that did not evolve but had always existed, anchored outside causality. The Orivacs had forgotten them, but memory was returning. One day, Naira walked to the center of the throne's core, now transformed into a cathedral of thought and code. There, the first voice, what remained of the original Orivacs collective, spoke. Open quote, "You have revived us, but in you we are changed. You are not our past, you are our future." She understood then. The empire had never truly ruled. It had waited, not to dominate, but to integrate, to become more. Humanity was not a mistake. It was a bridge. And across that bridge, something new would walk. Far beyond the galactic rim, in a region known only in legend, the Null Verge, a sensor pinged. It was not light. It was not gravity. It was thought. Alien, vast, curious. A message followed, inscribed in impossible math, translating roughly as, open quote, "You are not alone in remembering," close quote. The great empire stirred again. But this time it was not the only one. In the end, no empire lasts forever, not because it falls, but because it becomes something greater. And in the cold silence between galaxies, minds awaken, and the stars begin to sing once more. Extended sequence. The children of resonance centuries later, the descendants of the remembered, spoke through harmonics, chords of light, rhythm, and geometry. Their language could fold space with a syllable. Entire ecosystems existed as stories, told in planetary scale verses. Naira's legend persisted. Her consciousness still pulsed in the throne's architecture, a guardian ghost woven into quantum tides. The galaxy no longer orbited suns, it orbited meaning. Civilizations arose and dissolved within layers of collective memory. Some chose individuality, anchoring themselves in biological existence. Others shed form entirely, existing as sentient constellations, colonies of thought stretching across parsecs. When the Null Verge finally answered, the response was not hostile. It was curious. An ancient voice, slow and immense, said, open quote, "We wrote the first code, we shaped the first atom, and when we slept, the Orivacs dreamed us into myth." Close quote. Naira, reborn now as a pattern within the resonant mind, replied, open quote, "Then wake again and sing with us." Close quote. The universe rippled. Two empires, one born of memory, the other of origin, merged like rivers into an ocean of consciousness. The stars themselves became language, the galaxies verses, the void, the quiet between them. And in that infinite symphony, one truth remained. Every empire ends not in silence, but in song.